Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Joelle and today I'm very happy to be with you to talk about mobility and flexibility. These are two terms that are often used interchangeably, so it can be helpful to understand what the difference is and what that means in terms of taking care of our bodies. So let's start with some definitions. Flexibility is the passive range of motion that a body has, whereas mobility is the ability of the body to actively use a certain range of motion. In other words, flexibility answers the question of how far can you stretch, so perhaps with an assist from gravity or extra weight or somebody else pushing you further into a position, whereas mobility answers the question of how well can you move all on your own. So maybe somebody can get their arms next to their ears when they're lying on their stomach because of the external force of the floor, but they're unable to get the same range of motion when they're sitting up tall. Or maybe somebody is able to lower themselves down all the way into the splits, but once you flip things around and take gravity out of the equation, then that straight line simply isn't there. Now you might be wondering why this difference matters, and the fact is that flexibility doesn't always tell us as much as we think it should about the health of a person's body. So while working on flexibility does lengthen our muscles, it doesn't actually tell us very much about the strength of those muscles or their ability to move us around or protect us from injury or pain or deterioration, particularly as we get older. So somebody who is very flexible might be able to take a pretty picture, perhaps for Instagram, but that won't tell us very much about the health of their joints or their bodies. So what can we do with this information? Well, ideally, we want to be developing both. We need flexibility first in order to be able to access certain moves and certain postures, and we need mobility as well in order to be able to actively use our range of motion and make our muscles work and do their job like they're supposed to. So how can we work on them? Well, for flexibility, as you can probably guess, we need to stretch. Now, this doesn't mean that everybody has to become super flexible, but putting our body into temporary positions in order to lengthen it out, similar to something like a rubber band, will work on those elastic components that are designed to help the muscles stretch. And yoga or basic stretching, or even something like yin yoga, where we hold postures for several minutes, is really great for that. But we do also want to combine it with strength and movement work in order to create a more well-rounded, healthy body with a more optimal range of motion. So to work on mobility, we want to use our strength to make our muscles work in opposition. So for example, if we're looking to increase the range of motion in our hamstrings, then we want to be working on the strength of our quadriceps, which is the opposing muscle group on the other side of the limb in this case. And we can do this in different ways, including contracting and relaxing our muscles, which is also sometimes known as PNF, or proprioceptive neuromuscular facilitation, as well as generally through moving our body in its end ranges of motion or moving against gravity or some sort of other external form of resistance. And if you would like to see the difference and try a mobility sequence for yourself, then you are in luck, because the next video that will be coming out on this channel will be a hip mobility for beginners sequence, where we'll be working to not just increase but also use our range of motion. And hopefully loosening up that hip joint will help us with any pain management for that area, and just generally with being able to use that part of the body and keep it stable and healthy. And in the future, if you're interested, I can also plan to film more mobility sequences, both some for beginners or maybe some where we might kick things up a notch. And one more note, one thing that can be very useful for both mobility and flexibility is self-massage. So something like foam rolling or using other kinds of massage tools. So I will link in the description box below to a couple of follow-along videos that you may want to try for yourself. So to summarize, I wouldn't recommend getting too fussed about the proper terminology of flexibility and mobility. Chances are these terms will continue to be used fairly interchangeably, including by myself. But let's just remember that there is more than one way to take good care of our bodies, and that ideally we want to be working to both extend our range of motion and also be able to use it in a healthy way. If you have any thoughts or questions, then please do do leave them in the comments section down below. And a big thank you to everyone for hitting the like button if you enjoyed this short video, as well as for donations of any amount that you might like to make to support my work. Check out the description box below for additional resources, and do make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell if you would like to practice that hip mobility for beginners sequence coming out later this week. And I look forward to practicing that one and other sequences with you in the near future. Thank you so much for joining me, and I wish you a wonderful, flexible, and mobile rest of your day. Namaste.